Today, we're speaking with Gwen, the Fiery Millennial. This is also Gwen from the Fire Drill podcast, and the same Gwen who saved up a bunch of money, quit her formal job to go do the entrepreneurial/influencer thing, and then went back to working for the man.
You know, my worst case scenario was ending up just like every other adult in the world and working. That was my worst case scenario.
Yeah, your worst case scenario is everybody else's everyday life. Do you ever feel the itch to do that entrepreneurial thing again?
I wasn't willing to pay the costs of all of that extra work just to be able to stop working a little earlier. And I enjoy the work that I'm doing, and I feel like it's important.
Gwen, I'm super excited to talk to you today.
Thanks, Mindy. I'm super excited to be here.
Let's go back to the beginning. How did you discover financial independence?
Do you remember a website called StumbleUpon?
No.
So there's a website out there that used to exist that doesn't anymore, sadly, where you could type in any interest that you had, and then it would just give you random articles from all across the internet. And so I've typed in personal finance as an interest of mine, and up popped a blog article from this new blog called Mr. Money Mustache. I read this article and I was like, wow, this guy seems to know what's going on with finances. That seems awesome. I don't know if I want to work forever. And so I went onto the rest of his website, and the rest is history. I was sold.
Okay, so what was your life like before starting to pursue financial independence?
That's interesting because I found FIRE when I was 22 in college.
Oh.
So I didn't really have a before adult life before FIRE. I was just not your average college kid, but, you know, a pretty normal college kid. Then it all changed. The trajectory of my life changed completely.
Did it change what you were doing in college? Did it change what you were studying? Did it change how you approached just college, not college finances?
No, because I had already changed my major to be something that would allow me to bring home higher income. I went from law enforcement to computer science.
Yeah, that's going to be more income. If you're going strictly on the income front, that's a better choice.
Yeah, slightly better work-life balance too.
Could be. Although if you get one of those computer jobs where you're on call 24/7, that isn't all that awesome. Okay, so what was the most significant change that you made in your financial situation?
I didn't succumb to lifestyle inflation when I got my first big girl job out of high school or out of college. I kept my college car. I rented a cheap house, and then I got a roommate, and I brought my lunch to work and like really tried my best to keep my expenses as low as possible.
I did that too, but I hadn't discovered financial independence yet. What I had discovered was making $24,000 a year living in Chicago. So that's also something that you can do to keep expenses low, is just not bring any income in.
Yeah, fortunately, the reasoning behind why I was doing that was because I wanted to save 75% of my income and not because that was all the money that I had.
So what was your financial position when you graduated from college? Did you have any student loan debt? Did you have any credit card debt, anything like that?
No, I had school paid for 3 times over, actually.
Oh, hey, Gwen, how'd you pay for college?
I joined the military first. Then shortly after I signed my name in that dotted line, I got a call that my scholarship application had been accepted and would I like a full ride scholarship for academics? I cried and said, yes, please.
So who paid for college, the military or the scholarship?
The scholarship.
Okay.
So they wouldn't let me double dip. The university said, we're paying for it and you don't get the reimbursement from the military because you're not paying for it. And I said, fine. That's rude, but fine, I understand. But the military did give me a stipend through the Montgomery GI Bill. So I was earning close to $900 a month between drill pay and this stipend just to go spend a weekend at drill. And my expenses, because I lived on campus and I had a meal plan, were super duper low. And I saved a good chunk of it because that's what I had been taught to do by my parents, is to not, spend crazy amounts of money, and graduated with $10,000 to my name.
So you graduated with $10,000 in the plus.
Yep, and a paid off car.
And a paid off car and no student loan debt. Gwen, you won college.
I did win college. It was all completely coincidental too. I don't think that I could have planned it any better than that.
And not only did you win college, but you also started off with all the finance knowledge that some of us took a little bit longer to gather up. So you started off with a good financial foundation. You've got financial knowledge, and now you're starting your first job. You bring your lunch to work. You're saving all of your money. Where were you going to further your finance education? Blogs, videos, that kind of thing. What were you looking at?
back when I started on this journey, there were no video, blogs. There were hardly any podcasts out there. It was all blogs and what books were out in, 2012, 2013 on personal finances. That was the media that I was consuming.
Did you come across the 4% rule in the Trinity study and make your FI number early on?
Yep. The Mr. Money Mustache article, Shockingly Simple Math to Early Retirement. I was all over that. Yeah, that was like just light bulb moment, right? So I was like, well, I don't need much to live on. And I really don't like working this full-time job after having all this freedom and money to do whatever I wanted in college. So I calculated it out and I was going to need $635,000 to be lean FI.
Wow. Okay. How are you going about getting that $635,000?
I maxed out my 401k, my HSA, and my Roth IRA every year for the first 5 years of my working career.
If there is a picture-perfect way to do FI, when is kind of it?
Yeah, what do you do when you have the perfect setup and all the knowledge and the ability to put that into action?
You become Gwen. Okay, so...
Circa 2016.
2016. Yes, when you are 24 years old, you know everything. So now that you're not 24 years old, do you still stick to that original FI number?
I do not.
Has it increased or decreased?
Increased.
Exponentially?
Not exponentially so, but by a solid amount. And in fact, you know what, Mindy? I don't even have a number anymore.
Oh.
Yeah.
What are you doing with your money? Are you just socking it away and socking it away and socking it away forever?
We have to rewind a bit. When I left my job, my W-2 job, I was going to be a blogger, podcaster, influencer extraordinaire. I was going to be like all my friends and I was going to have all this creative free time and I was going to it was going to be amazing, right? And absolutely zero of those plans worked out. I was really bad at real estate, which is a whole other topic that we could talk about, which wasn't due to bad guidance because, I'm pretty sure that I called you a couple of times and be like, hey, what's going on? So about 9 months, I realized, this isn't going to work. This isn't for me. I packed up all my stuff. I broke up with that partner and I moved back into my parents' basement at the ripe old age of 27. And it was like, okay, this is rock bottom. I'm depressed that my relationship didn't work out. I'm depressed that my plans for the year and life going forward didn't work out. I struggled so hard those 9 months to make nothing. I would bring in like $200 or $300 a month. Money was flying out faster than I could scrape it in. And so I was like, wait a minute, I could go back to work for a job and earn like $80,000 a year by doing a hell of a lot work than I have done the last 9 months.
This is an interesting pivot because I think in the FI community, there is this idea that if you quit working for the man, it is a failure to go back and start working again. And I think that that's so wrong. You struck out on your own and tried it out and it didn't work out. When you have another choice, why intentionally make life hard? I have never understood this, oh, she went back to work. He went back to work. I know several people that went back to work who are so excited that they did. I work. I know a lot of people in the FI community that work. So this idea that working is some sort of failure is wrong. And if you have a problem with me saying that, you can email Mindy@BiggerPockets.com and I'll have a whole conversation with you about it.
My worst case scenario was ending up just like every other adult in the world and working. That was my worst case scenario.
Yeah, your worst case scenario is everybody else's everyday life. You joined everybody else's everyday life. And now you make a salary that is more than $200 or $300 a month, I'm assuming.
Much more, yeah.
Much more. You are able to continue to save money. You are living a very comfortable life. You are able to afford things that you want. So do you ever feel the itch to do that entrepreneurial thing again?
Honestly, I got so burnt out, because they're like, wake up early and work on your blog or, do this. And you've got your 9 to 5, but then you got your 5 to 9, right?
Yeah. All you have to do is wake up at 4:30 in the morning. Isn't that what Jocko says?
Yeah. And, you're supposed to work out and eat well while you're doing all of this. And obviously the money is going to flow in and you're going to, be living this great lifestyle. Well, I got so burnt out and so disillusioned by this hustle culture that it really did a number on me. And I wasn't willing to pay the costs of all of that extra work just to be able to stop working a little earlier.
Yeah, what is that definition? An entrepreneur is somebody who will work 90 hours a week for themselves so they don't have to work 40 hours a week for somebody else. And, that's really true. I have been in the financial media space for more than 10 years. And I have watched a lot of bloggers start from a position of, oh, I'm just so excited to share my story, to kind of morphing into how much money can I make online? And there are some people who make a lot of money.
So much money.
Blogging about finance. And that's great. But when you go on their blog, it doesn't feel genuine. It feels like one big giant commercial.
Yep.
And I'm clearly not naming names, but I don't want to read one big giant commercial. I want to read a genuine accounting of what's going on in your life. So let's go back to that moment where you are packing up, leaving, moving into your parents' basement, deciding to get a new job. How was that decision made? Was that like an instant decision? Was that over the course of several weeks or several months?
So I left my job in March, and by December I was employed again. And I probably started applying for jobs and looking for jobs in the middle of the summer sometimes, so June, July, somewhere around there. But it took me a lot longer to get back into the working world than I thought, just because I had forgotten a bunch of stuff and was like, oh, right, docking stations do exist. I totally forgot about dealing with that. But of course I knew that. But I forgot about that until I interviewed. Somebody told me at the beginning when I was talking about how I was going to leave work, they said, listen, don't be afraid to go back to work. And I think that was probably the best advice that I got because, I put it out there for the world. I was talking about this on my blog. I was talking about this on the podcast. I was like, I told the world this is what I was going to do. And then it didn't work. So then I had to change my plans and go back.
Well, Gwen, I hope you have enjoyed this totally unique experience of something that you planned and announced in your life not working out. Tell me what that's like, because I've never lived through that, and nobody listening has ever lived through that.
Definitely not. Yeah.
I mean, I just think there's this idea of shame, but I don't look at you as anything less than a complete success because you tried it, it didn't work out, and you acknowledged that it didn't work out, and you changed course. I think it would have been more of a failure if you sat there and kept grinding and ran through all the money that you had saved up, trying desperately to make something work that just wasn't in the cards. What is that? You got to know when to fold them? Mm-hmm. Kenny Rogers, right?
Yep.
Speaking of old websites, there used to be a website called menwholooklikeKennyRogers.com.
I love the internet.
It was just a bunch of guys with white hair and white beards. It didn't matter what they looked like. It was just a white hair and white beard.
Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
There's another website I would love to have brought back. So Gwen, what changed when you went back to work?
It turns out that my unique profile of experience meant that I was best suited for the defense industry, and the hub of the defense industry is Washington, D.C. And so that's what I did. I packed up the cat and all my stuff, and I moved to Washington, D.C.
Washington, D.C., that low cost of living area?
Oh, yeah. Super easy to get into, housing there, and so cheap.
So you were making a good salary, but you were also spending a lot just to be able to live in that area. How long did you stay in D.C.?
Basically a year. It was $1,800 a month for this smaller apartment, and it was taking up a bunch of my take-home pay. I couldn't save as much money as I was used to. Couldn't have the same level of lifestyle on the same pay because, it's a high cost of living area and everything was super expensive and there were tons of people, and I was just you know what? I think I need to go back closer to the Midwest. My pay stayed roughly the same when I moved from DC to St. Louis, but it was like getting a 33% raise because the cost of living was so much lower.
So let's talk investing, Gwen. Are you investing?
Minimal investing is happening right now.
In terms of percentage of annual income, what does minimal mean?
10%.
10%. This sounds like a deliberate choice. Why are you investing 10% when before you were investing 75%?
Future Gwen is going to have more money than she knows what to do with. I don't want to be, 49 and a half years old going, I have $4.3 million and I don't know how to spend it.
Wow, that would be awful. I read something about that. One of those people was 50.
So I decided that I would rather enjoy my life a little bit more and kind of enjoy the fruits of my labors now when I kind of need the money, and not so much in the future. Future Gwen does not need all that money.
So it sounds like what you're describing is Coast-Fi.
I am coast-fi, yes. I have enough money saved right now that if I never saved another penny for retirement, I would be completely fine and still probably end up with a ton of money. Because, well, I guess I can't say that I have 2 pensions now, right? I only have 1 because but I did the financially unsavvy thing and I'm cashing it out. I am taking the penalty, the 10% penalty, and I'm taking the income tax on it. And I would rather have $7,500 to spend now than whatever that money would be invested for the future, because I don't need it for the future, but I could use it well now.
And that sounds like a conscious decision that has weighed the pros and cons and made a decision based on what you feel is the best choice, as opposed to a fly off the handle. I'm mad at them because it took them so long to get me my pension documentation, and now I'm just going to cash it out anyway because I'm going to take my ball and go home. I think that's something that I can sometimes come across as judgy. And the reason that I am judging a specific decision is because it feels like it was just made with no thought.
Yeah.
And, stopping at the grocery store really quick to grab a Diet Coke on your way out of town is very different type of made with no thought decision than I'm going to cash out my pension because I got a hot stock tip from the shoe shine boy, or I'm putting it all in meme stocks. Please don't.
Oh, so I shouldn't put it into Dogecoin? Just kidding. I would never do that.
No crypto ever.
I mean, I kind of have a golden handcuffs situation now because I have really good benefits. I have a really good employer and I enjoy the work that I'm doing. And I feel like it's important. I'm not just another cog in the wheel earning money for some billionaire, right? Like I'm doing important work. And if I stay until I'm 55, I can stay on their employee healthcare plan at employee rates instead of retiree rates. So I'm going to be working for like an extra 10 or 15 years longer than I had planned. I wasn't like planning on making all of that money, and I was kind of planning on using the money that I had already saved during that time. So not only am I not spending my nest egg, I'm adding to it and earning more during that time. So it's just like, why not inflate my lifestyle and not be miserable in a studio apartment or drive an old car that is slowly falling apart piece by piece and requires me to be rescued by my boss?
Again, a conscious decision after weighing the pros and cons, after listening to really great podcast episodes about people who have done things maybe suboptimally, a word that can't be uttered by one of those people on that show anymore.
The bad O word.
The bad O word, yes. So what is your biggest FI takeaway that you would like to share with our audience?
Early retirement is not everything. I know. I said it.
Wow. I love it. I love it. And you know what? You said something really important. You said, I like what I do. Or maybe you said you love what you do. I can't remember your exact word.
Love is maybe a strong word some days, but I really enjoy what I do.
Gwen, thank you so much for joining us today. Where can people find you online?
Before, my answer would have said Twitter, but that's kind of dead now, I guess. So
X.com.
Yeah, X.com or whatever they're going to end up calling it. Who knows? Oh, Elon. I still have my blog at FieryMillennials.com, and I'm around on other social media platforms as well. It's Fiery Millennial, I think, because I ran out of characters.
Well, awesome. Gwen, thank you so much for sharing your story today. I think that it is a story of success and trial and pivot and success again. And Coast Fi is my favorite kind of Fi. I love that you're living your best life now.
Thank you so much for having me.
We'll talk to you soon.